Hello and welcome. My name is Zaffar Iqbal and you are watching the Mojo Story. The Israeli Defense Forces have increased their air attacks and ground operations in Gaza. These are visuals of the bombardment in the night that was conducted on Gaza. You can see from those visuals, this is happening since more than 2 weeks now after Israel launched a retaliatory attack on Hamas after the October 7th attack that was carried out by Hamas in Israel. You can see from those visuals houses being bombarded. These Israeli defense forces say are the hideouts of Hamas militants and terrorists who are taking shelter in those houses and hiding behind civilians. These are the latest visuals you can see from on the screen. But clearly, some reports suggest that Israeli defense forces uh, have taken this war to their next level now, and it's a matter of time when the ground invasion will be started. And some reports also say that it's already begun. But what we know that surgical strikes were carried out over the last few days. That's pinpoint attack inside Gaza to target the leadership of Hamas. And in fact, Israel has claimed that they have eliminated top leadership of Hamas. The operational commanders have been killed in those airstrikes over the last few days. You can see from those visuals that is the Hamas terrorists who went on a rampage and killed over 1,000 people in Israel. Some reports say 1,400 people were killed in Israel on October 7th, and 200 were taken by Hamas to Gaza as hostage and kept them as hostage. You can see from those visuals that's the music festival, people running away. That's the day when Hamas carried out that attack at multiple locations. This is one of the hostages, a hostage who Maya Sham, who is a dual national of France and Israel. The video was released by Hamas, and a couple of hostages were later released with the help of Qatar. Qatar had mediated in that, and America had thanked Qatar for that. But it is still more than 200 hostages who are with Hamas in Gaza. But what is important is that the IDF or the Israel Defense Force has claimed that the main command center of Hamas is underneath a hospital, beneath Al Shifa Hospital in central Gaza. Now that is what the IDF has said, and in fact they have released a video which is a computer generated video. You can see that's also being tweeted by the Prime Minister of Israel. Uh, you can see from those visuals, Shifa Hospital, that's the main hospital in Gaza. Reports say that beneath that is the main center of Hamas, where they are doing their operational consultations and carrying out uh, attacks against Israel. And also, reports suggest that the entrances to this hospital is through wards, so that makes it entirely complicated. Remember, a few days ago, a hospital was struck. Hamas said that the strike was carried out by Israel, but later on it emerged that it was possibly due to a rocket which was fired by Hamas that led to that hit on the hospital, in which Hamas claimed 500 people were killed, but Israel disputed that figure and said that it's an exaggerated figure. But clearly, hospitals are the center of confrontation between Hamas and Israel, and now with this latest claim that beneath the Al Shifa hospital lies the main hideout, the command center of Hamas. That is what Israel has claimed, and they have released this video. So that is the situation on the ground. More than 7,000 people have been killed in Israeli retaliation on Gaza after Hamas carried out that attack, in which some reports said 1,400 people were killed. Now, these are Israeli tanks ready for a ground invasion. The go ahead hasn't been given yet. One of the reasons cited is the hostages uh, who have been taken away by Hamas and kept in Gaza. It could potentially put them into more trouble. We can, of course, uh, play that Gaza bombing with the sound. Right. And IDF obviously putting out tweets about the operatives and commanders of Hamas, which they have eliminated. But amid all this, there is a communication blockade that's now being imposed, complete communication blackout in Gaza. That's what reports say, and that has really impacted. That's really impacted communications, and media and aid agencies are finding it difficult to operate according to reports. Now, you can see from those posts of the IDF that overnight IDF fighter jet struck Asim Abu Rakaba, the head of Hamas aerial array. Now, this has been Israeli Defense Forces have been putting out tweets. Clearly, their aim is to eliminate the leadership of Hamas before carrying out the ground invasion. And in a fresh tweet, they have claimed that they have killed one top commander of Hamas. But amid all of this, there is a communication blackout that's been enforced in Gaza, and that's really raised concerns about the news that will come out, that's coming out, and about the aid agencies which are operating in Gaza. So far, we have seen lots of videos from Gaza. In fact, journalists have been risking their lives and reporting out of Gaza. And you can see from those pictures the devastation on the ground. Al Jazeera journalist lost his family in an aerial strike by Israel. That's that journalist. You can see him devastated after he heard the news that his family has been killed in that strike. But hours later, he was back on ground and reporting. That's the situation for journalists in Gaza. The Committee to Protect Journalists has said that recent conflict has been the deadliest period for journalists since 1992. So, extremely difficult to report out of Gaza. And I can tell you, when there is a communication blockade that's imposed, it makes it even more difficult. You don't just need to have a story, you have to get that story out. And that becomes extremely difficult when there is a communication blackout that's being imposed and that's being reported now. So that is being done before a full scale ground invasion. But I mean, all that international powers are coming together to find a way out. In fact, a uh, uh, UN resolution uh, UN resolution has come about. But before we talk about that, let's hear from the journalist who came back to work he was after his family was wiped out in that Israeli attack.
السلام عليكم. أولا شكرا على كل رسائل التضامن والاتصالات والسؤال عن التضامن معنا والدعوات لنا. بالتأكيد هذا شيء كان مهما بالنسبة لنا، لكن رأينا أنه من الواجب أن نعود سريعا رغم كل شيء. فالساحة والمحاور ما زالت تشتعل كما ترون بالغارات وبالقصف المدفعي والتطورات متلاحقة. فرأيت أن من واجبي رغم الوجع ورغم الجرح النازف أن أعود سريعا وألتقيكم من خلال عدسة الكاميرا عبر مواقع التواصل. يعطيكم العافية وأسألكم الدعاء دائما وأبدا. السلام عليكم.
He says that it was my duty to come back to work. Extremely brave journalist, but amid all of this, uh, the UN has in fact passed a resolution. There have been global responses that's been coming in. A resolution for a humanitarian truce in Gaza that's been passed by the UN, but it's not a binding resolution. It's a non-binding resolution as Israel continues to carry out its attack. India has abstained. India's position is very clear that Hamas has to be uh, has to be held accountable for the terror attack that was carried on October 7th, and it was on that basis that India abstained. But India clearly favors the escalation. That's the Indian representative that's speaking, and it's all in favor of aid to be sent to Gaza. In fact, India has sent a consignment of aid to Gaza already for the people who are stuck there. Let's hear what Indian representative had to say.
Thank you, Mr. President. In a world where differences and disputes should be resolved by dialogue, this august body should be deeply concerned at recourse to violence. That too, when it happens on a scale and intensity that is an affront to basic human values. Violence as a means to achieve political objectives damages indiscriminately and does not pave the way for any durable solutions. The terror attacks in Israel on 7th October were shocking and deserve condemnation. Our thoughts are also with those taken hostages. We call for their immediate and unconditional release. Terrorism is a malignancy and knows no borders, nationality, or race. The world should not buy into any justification of terror acts. Let us keep aside differences, unite, and adopt a zero-tolerance approach to terrorism. Mr. President, casualties in the ongoing conflict in Gaza are a telling, serious, and continuing concern. Civilians, especially women and children, are paying with their lives. This humanitarian crisis needs to be addressed. We welcome the international community's de-escalation efforts and delivery of humanitarian assistance to the people of Gaza. India, too, has contributed to this effort. Mr. President, India is deeply concerned at the deteriorating security situation and astounding loss of civilian lives in the ongoing conflict. The escalation of hostilities in the region will only exacerbate the humanitarian crisis. It is necessary for all parties to display the utmost responsibility. Mr. President, India has always supported a negotiated two-state solution to the Israel-Palestine issue, leading to the establishment of a sovereign, independent, and viable state of Palestine, living within secure and recognized borders, side by side in peace with Israel. For this, we urge the parties to de-escalate, eschew violence, and work towards creating conditions for an early resumption of direct peace negotiations. We hope that the deliberations
Right. So the India's stand has been consistent right from the first day that it condemns terrorism. In fact, Indian representative there at the UN clearly speaking about terrorism and zero tolerance for terrorism. At the same time, India is in favor of sending aid for the people in Gaza. That's Prime Minister Modi, right on the day when this shocking incident of October 7th happened. Deeply shocked, Prime Minister Modi tweeted and thoughts and prayers with the innocent victims. Since then, India has had this principled stance condemning Hamas terrorism right at the level of the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister also talking to Mahmoud Abbas in the West Bank, and India's position, which has always been consistent That's two-state solution, Israel and Palestine living in peace side by side. So that's been India's stand. But in this UN resolution that was adopted, it's the protection of civilians and upholding legal and humanitarian obligations. uh, there were 120 votes for the resolution. There were 14 which were against it, and uh, 45 countries abstained, including India. So that is the situation on the ground. You can see from those tweets, Prime Minister Modi making it very clear that we'll continue to send humanitarian assistance for Palestinians. It has already dispatched a consignment of that aid for Palestine, uh, and India has reiterated its long-standing principled position on Israel-Palestine issue. But India making it very clear that terrorism cannot be tolerated, and there is zero tolerance for terrorism. Now, this is a non-binding resolution that was adopted. You can see from that UN chart, 120 people were in favor of that resolution, 40 were against it, and 45 countries abstained, including India. Obviously, India abstained because there was no mention of Hamas. This resolution was primarily moved by Jordan. Uh, there was uh, there was some sort of amendment that was worked into it by that was initiated by Canada, but that did not happen because it did get the votes, and this UN resolution was passed. So it calls for truce, humanitarian truce in Gaza. Obviously, there are people who are stuck there. Israel has already been making appeals to the people to move from north to south, North Gaza to South Gaza, as it's already shut electricity and water supplies into that area. United Nations has expressed concern. United Nations Secretary General has said that its own staff and supplies are under pressure. Supplies are running out, and it's a matter of few days when the supplies will dry out. Some relief materials have gone in through the Rafah border of Egypt. In fact, UN Secretary General there he was personally present at that border, Rafah, Egypt border that borders with Gaza, when the first batch of supplies were moved in. So clearly, the situation on the ground seems to be escalating with every passing day as preparations are made for the ground invasion. But you can see from those visuals what's left in Gaza after aerial bombardment, continuous pounding of Gaza for all these days. Gaza is a small strip of land, extremely densely populated, and it borders with Israel and also with Egypt. You can see the destruction there in Gaza. And now Israel has been saying that Hamas is taking shield of civilians and hiding behind them. Uh, but Hamas has said that it's ready for any ground invasion. In fact, according to reports, they said that they are engaging with the Israeli troops on the ground, as was reported that there have been some surgical strikes that have been carried out. Now, these are strikes carried out by guided missiles, guided rockets that destroy particular building, particular areas. That's been the main strategy of Israel since the retaliatory action took place. It did not, of course, go out go out in the shape of a ground invasion, but it carried out aerial strikes since then. And there have been lots of videos coming in. You can see this teddy bear for kidnapped kids by Hamas. You can see there are lots of videos and very moving videos, in fact, that are coming from Israel as well as from Gaza, where small children have been killed, infants have been killed, and these are teddy bears for kidnapped kids by Hamas. So we can, of course, again show you the bombardment of Gaza That's a new video that's coming. You can hear the sound of blasts. And Hamas has entered in a crucial stage now, with Israel making preparations for a ground assault, a ground invasion into Gaza after pounding Gaza for days altogether with aerial strikes. Now, there has been support for Gaza that's coming in. Palestinians in the West Bank have shown support through mass prayers, according to reports. And there are also concerns that are in the region as well as internationally, the fears that this war may expand further and other countries could get involved. So clearly, amid all of this, the UN has passed a resolution with the hope that more aid will be sent into Gaza, but that's not stopped Israel from carrying out more strikes and attacks inside Gaza, claiming that it has eliminated most of Hamas leadership and it will not stop its actions till Hamas is wiped out. We'll keep a close track of this situation developing in Gaza and in Israel. But for now, thanks so much for watching.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.